Hey, what's happening, all you dudes and dudettes? This is Dudes Talking Freedom back at you once again. This is Luke.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we want to thank you for joining us on the Dudes Talking Freedom podcast. We're brought to you by Warriors for Freedom, a nonprofit that creates pathways to engage service members, to help veterans and their families prevent suicide, foster camaraderie, and help them live their best lives. Check them out at warriorsforfreedom.org. All right, folks, we're talking freedom and whatever the hell else we want to talk about, but we have a very special guest, Special Forces Warrant Officer 2 Nick Lavery, author of Objective Secure. He is the first amputee in military history to complete the Special Forces Warrant Officer Technical and Tactical Certification course, the Special Operations Combative Program Instructor course, and the Special Forces Combat Diver Qualification course. Nick's awards include the Silver Star, 3 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars, Bronze Star with V for Valor, Defense Meritus Service Medal, 2 Meritus Service Medals, Joint Service Commendation Medal, Joint Service Achievement Medal, 2 Army Commendation Medals, Army Achievement Medal, the OSS Society Peter Ortiz Award, the Bruce Price Leadership Award, and the Special Operations Commander Excalibur Award. Woo! Easily the Dudes Talking Freedom most highly decorated guest. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Nicely done there, brother.
Yeah.
Well done. I'm impressed.
Welcome, bro.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Man. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Yeah, easily the most decorated guest we've ever had.
I was afraid we were going to run out of intro music there.
I was
Got it
too.
in, man.
It started to get to the point where I was like, oh, man, are we going to run out of time with the music? But it's a good 3-minute clip, so I think we're good.
Sweet.
Nailed it.
So, Nick, man, how do you go from a collegiate football player in Massachusetts to everything that Luke just rattled off, man? How does that happen?
The short, fast answer is a couple planes flew into a building, in a couple buildings in Manhattan. I was a sophomore in college and walking to class that day, which was kind of rare for me, really. I wasn't all much of an academic, but the entire student body was walking back towards the dorms. You know, stop a dude, be like, what's going on, man? He's like, yeah, all the classes are canceled for today. And I'm like, perfect, because I didn't feel like going anyway. So I'm heading back to the dorms, just figuring out how I'm going to waste yet another day of my life. And, turn on the television, the same thing is on every channel. And I can remember watching Americans make the decision between burning to death in a building or jumping out of one. And although at the time, man, I was certainly proud to be an American, I didn't have the red, white, and blue coursing through my veins like I have today. Don't come from a really robust military background, but I was pissed off and knew we were going to respond, and I wanted to be part of that.
So you went straight to Special Forces. You didn't go into the Army and then get recruited out of the Army.
Yeah,
you were
correct.
like, hey, I'm going straight.
Yeah,
I'm going straight to Special
straight
Forces.
in. I came in as what's known as an 18 X-ray, which is the MOS for a Special Forces recruit, which gives guys off the street the opportunity to bypass the conventional Army and just go straight into the Special Forces pipeline. So that's what I did.
So you're kind of the equivalent of like a 5-star athlete, right? With on your recruiting stars. They're like, let's give this guy the highway straight to Special Forces.
How do they make that decision? How do they decide that?
So there is some criteria. It's really not all that difficult to meet. A lot of it's medical, and they go through your background checks and stuff like that. And you do have to do an initial PT test with the recruiter. You have to get a minimum score. You have to be a minimum age. And then once you go into MEPS and you take your what is it? Not your D lab, but your ASVAB. Thank you. You got to get a minimum score on that. So there's like minimum criteria that you need to meet to qualify as an 18 X-ray.
Okay. Now, did you finish your college days, or did you go straight? You did. So you did 2 more years, and then you went into the military.
It ended up being more like 4 more years.
Okay.
For me, which was a struggle, not only to grind out my degree, but I went to my counsel's office the next morning and was like, get me out of school. Like, I'm dropping out of college now to enlist somewhere in the military. And he was like, whoa, hold on a second. So he kind of talked some knowledge into me. And then I listened to the advice of some family and friends and decided to stay in and grind out the degree. And then once I eventually graduated, then I started looking at options.
Okay.
All right. So you played football at
UMass Lowell,
UMass Lowell. Okay. What position were you playing?
outside linebacker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got the size for it.
Yeah.
What are you,
definitely.
6'5",
6'5".
60?
I understand why you think that.
Yeah.
You got to keep in mind I'm missing about 40 pounds
Yeah,
of leg.
true.
So
True.
I walk around usually around like 217, 220-ish nowadays.
All right. How much is the prosthetic weigh?
This is about 11 pounds.
11 pounds. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot lighter than a leg.
Yes.
And, your book goes through a lot of the detail as to how you had to learn to use a prosthetic,
Yeah.
obviously, right? Just to walk originally, but then to do training, lifting, exercise, and then get back into the field.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story. So anybody listening, you got to check out Nick's book. It's called Objective Secure, the battle-tested guide to goal achievement. Why don't you kind of give everybody just like a high level of like what the book is about and what kind of drove you to write this book?
Yeah, I think the best way to explain what it is really the genesis of it. Like, why did I write it? Where did this come from? My first deployment as an amputee was in 2015. We were successful. I got on the back end of that, got back home, and really got pushed into this limelight that I was incredibly uncomfortable with. The Army and USASOC and SOCOM wanted to highlight what we collectively were able to do. Now, this was an unprecedented event for an above-the-knee amputee to go back to a team and go back into combat. Mm-hmm. And I fought it tooth and nail. But when a 3-star general politely asks you to do something, he's not really asking you shit. That's just a nice way of ordering you to do something.
Yeah.
So there were different interviews, and I was meeting with decision makers from Washington. A lot of it was focused around our strength and conditioning program, and they were looking to an increase in budget, and I would be an advocate for what we were able to do. It was really hard for me, but that was the initiation of me seeing it more as an opportunity and a responsibility to share some of these lessons learned through blood, sweat, and tears to enable others that are struggling with something. So that was the catalyst, and I kind of slowly began getting myself out there into social media and being a little bit more comfortable every day, more and more. It didn't take long for just what began as, dozens and then eventually thousands of questions coming at me like, how did you do this? Why did you do it? And how did you do it? So after answering those kind of questions one at a time for years, I eventually just stopped and said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually document the answer to this question in just a very succinct manner so I can just copy and paste and send the answer to people. It was purely based off efficiency for myself. And then secondary to that, I felt like I'd give the end user a better product, one that had a little bit more analysis and some reflection put into it. So I spent a few days and ended up drafting this, what ended up being around 9 pages on a Microsoft Word document. And it was just an outline. It was just step 1, step 2, just like a guide. Mm-hmm. And I used it that way for years. All right. So now fast forward to 2020. All right. It's May, June timeframe. I'm in dive school down at Key West. This is like peak COVID. Okay. Mm-hmm. People are going bananas, locked in their houses, like mass hysteria, dogs and cats living together. Eric, who is a friend of both of us, one of my best buddies, we played football together in college, roommates in college. We've been boys over 20 years. He calls me. I'm 4 weeks through dive school. It's a 6-week program. And E and I would maybe go voice maybe once a quarter. Mm-hmm. And usually that meant that there was like a problem that needed to be figured out. Yeah. Either I had an issue or he did. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just like random text.
Got to be a legit one-on-one.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And we just have that kind of relationship. It's all good. So phone rings. It's him. I'm like, oh, shit, there's something up. What's up, dude? And he's like, how you doing? I'm like, not great. I'm getting my ass kicked down here in dive school, but I'm hanging on by a thread. He's like, cool, glad to hear it. I'm like, what's the problem? He's like, no, it's no problem, but I think you need to write a book. Just like that, out of nowhere. Boom. And I'm like, what? He's like, no, man, I've been thinking about it, and I think this is something we need to talk about. And I'm like, dude, I'm in no condition to have this conversation right now. I'm hanging on by a thread. I'll talk to you later. Click, hang up. Mm-hmm. He hits me back the day after I get home, a couple weeks later, re-engages on it. And I said, man, out of respect to you, I love you. I'll think about it, which I did. And the fact that this was June of 2020, The gyms are closed. The fight houses are closed. We're doing this weird half on, half off work schedule thing. We're trying to maintain 6 feet separation while we're doing CQB, which is impossible. So like work was weird. I have all this extra time and energy on my hands that I otherwise wouldn't have had.
Right.
So I needed a place to reinvest that. And I thought about that guide that I had been using up until that point. And I knew it was effective. The feedback was tremendous. Hit Eric back up. I said, I kind of have this document that I've been using in this manner for the last like 3 years. He's like, I think you should just kind of keep going with it, man, and just see where it goes. So I'm like, you know what? All right, let's do that. So this is July. I'm deploying into Iraq with my team in December. So I'm like, I'm going to commit myself to this and just see what happens over the next few months. And I just caught the bug for it. It became this unusual, weird obsession that I had, where there were times I was popping out of bed at 2 a.m. and I just had to go right, which is bizarre.
Which I'm guessing has never happened to you before.
Never, ever. If I was writing something prior to that, it was because I had to, either for work or for school or whatever. So that in itself was unusual for me. My wife would wake up like 7 hours later and I'm like 7 cans of Copenhagen deep and 2 gallons of coffee later, and I'm just hammering away on the keyboard. And she's like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? Fast forward just a few months, it's like mid-November, and I'm sitting on, like 75,000 words. And next thing you know, you've at least got the content of what could be a book. And then, of course, you go through like editing and whatever. That story really, it just paints the picture as to the purpose behind this. Because although now it's a book in 3-dimensional form, digital version, we just did the audio book. So it's a real book, but it still is the exact same thing that it was intended to be 7 years ago when I drafted just the answer to the question as to why did you do what you did. Yeah. That's still very much what this is.
So you wouldn't have to tell people the same story over and over again.
Efficiency, man.
And now you're
look at you
at all these podcasts.
Telling the same story over and over again.
Just thought it was going to get you out of something.
Right. Yeah. Which it did, and then it got me into some other things.
Well, it's absolutely inspirational. And last Thursday, my daughter actually went in for some heart surgery. 3 years old, had a PDA that opened back up. So they did like a catheter, surgical maneuver.
Wow.
Where they put in a little stent where it plugs the hole essentially. It went great, but it was one of the most challenging things I'd been through, to watch my 3-year-old daughter go through that. And all along I'm sitting here reading Objective Secure. So, it's inspirational. It's the type of thing that makes you think that you can get through anything because Nick Lavery did it, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Or anybody else can, right? You know, it's powerful.
Thank you.
And it's awesome that you shared your story.
Thank you. And good luck to your girl. She'll be in my prayers, brother.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Well, she's full of energy. She was already energetic before.
Boy, is she ever.
She had 2 to 1 of her blood was pumping to her lungs, and the rest was going to her body. And her face was kind of pale, and we didn't realize that it was pale until after the surgery, right? But now she's got all that extra blood going to the rest of her body and her brain, and man, she is on fire. She is on fire. It's really awesome to see. I'm
glad to hear it,
really
man.
Blessed.
Yeah, absolutely.
She got the chain off now. She's allowed to kind of run around and do her thing, or she still need to take it easy?
Yeah, as of this morning, your son stayed over at our house.
Yeah.
Our sons are friends. And we were like, well, you can't walk upstairs yet because you're just going to go up there and annoy the hell out of Hunter and Nolan. But pretty soon, she's very persistent, and she was like, fine. We're like, fine, walk up the stairs. We're tired of carrying you upstairs. So she's going to be a decent salesperson as well.
She got you.
Yeah, she does. She got me
She
wrapped
closed.
up.
I feel like
Closer.
my kids will be pretty good salespeople too.
Yeah.
They hear me all the time. It's like, and I'm always negotiating with them. It's like the same thing, You mentioned when your one of your, I forget who it was, but he asked you nicely, but was really telling you.
Oh yeah,
It's kind of like
you
a parent,
suck, Amanda, right?
Yeah, it's like a parent. Like, I'm asking you nicely to pick up your toys, but really I'm telling you to pick up your toys. Otherwise, there's going to be trouble.
It just happened right now. Your wife was like, hey, you ready to take a shower? Hunter's like, no. And she's like, it wasn't a question. Go get in the shower.
That's right. Are you ready to take a shower? No. Well, yes, you are.
Actually,
I'm going to answer that question for you. You are ready to take a shower. I was just being nice. So you lost your leg in your second deployment, right? First deployment went mostly well. You got injured a couple times.
No, actually, all my injuries were on
the second deployment.
On my second combat trip, yeah. My third time into Afghanistan, my second combat rotation.
Okay.
All in 2013, yeah.
2012 going into 13.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I don't, at the risk of giving too much away, at a high level though, can you just tell the story without giving everything away? Like high level, you are on your second deployment. You've been injured a couple times at this point and right back in action. Like never went to, you never wanted to get pulled out. You were just like, hey, look, I got shot in the face. I'm good. I'm gonna heal up and I'm gonna go back with my team. Mm-hmm. But then the big injury came. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, man. I mean, the wave tops. We only had a couple weeks left in country before we were getting ripped out. So we'd been there like 5.5 months. We were getting ready to go on a relatively large operation. Obviously, it was patented because that's really what Green Berets do. So larger operations. We had a bunch of conventional Afghan units that were there with us. Getting ready to head out. Just got done with the mission brief. Member of the Afghan National Police Force, a guy that we had been training and conducting operations with, jumped up on the back of a Ford Ranger pickup truck that had a belt-fed PKM machine gun attached to it and opened fire into the group from about 20 feet away. 12 U.S. casualties total, 3 of which killed, another 10 or 11 Afghans killed or wounded. So the most catastrophic insider attack that we actually have really on record to this day. Most of the damage to me was to my right leg. It was maybe 4 or 5 rounds to my right leg alone. Took a round to my lower left leg, which I didn't find out for months later. Femoral artery severed. My femur was shattered into 15 different pieces. Treated myself mostly is really what prevented me from bleeding out entirely in that moment. Got medevaced out, got sent to an outpost that had a forward surgical team, went on a blood transfusion. Turns out it was with an incompatible blood type, which absolutely just crushed me. They didn't realize that was a problem until I was already en route to Bagram, which no one believed I would survive that flight. They actually called Bagram Hospital, and they're like, yeah, we just pumped Nick full of like 6 units of an incompatible blood type. There's no way he survives this to you guys, so just be prepared to receive his body when he gets there. In a lot of ways, they were right. I mean, I totally coded the med crew on the dust-off platform, the Medevac Bird. These guys were getting real creative with ways to keep me alive. I mean, panels, shots of adrenaline, like all kinds of wazoo techniques. Get to Bagram. They intubate me, so a machine's breathing for me. I'm on dialysis. I'm on another transfusion. They amputate my foot, which at that point was pretty much dead anyway. And machines kept me going for about 3 days. And then, then I came back.
Man, how do they make that mistake with the blood?
Yeah, it's a fair question.
Don't know, no answer. I'm assuming, right?
No, it's actually a quite simple answer. So on the first lift out, there were 3 of us, the most critically wounded, myself and 2 of my teammates. And when they took us from our site, they had 2 options. One was to send us to this outpost that had an FST, a forward surgical team, or to send us to Bagram, which has a full-blown hospital. Mm-hmm. Bagram was a longer flight, so they went with the speed route. Get us guys in front of a doctor as soon as possible. Boom, we get there. They pull us off the bird. Well, both me and one of my teammates, we both needed blood bad, so they put us both on transfusions. Well, my body eventually begins to absolutely crash, and they don't know what the problem is, but they know I need to get to Bagram, so they throw me back on a bird and send me to Bagram. Well, they go over to my teammate. We have very similar last names, both begin L and A. And they go to change out his blood with a fresh bag, and they realize they're giving him O positive, even though he's AB negative. And they're like, wait a minute, why are we giving Owen O positive? And they're like, oh, shit. So then they go look to see what they'd given me. So they just switched up our names, is what happened.
Man.
Fortunately
Honest
for Owen,
mistake, yeah. Wow.
I'm O positive, so I'm a universal donor, which means I can give blood to anybody, and they'll be fine. Mm-hmm. However, O positive is not universal recipients.
Right.
So he was good, and it just crushed me.
Oh, man. I can't imagine, you see this shit in movies, dude. You see this in movies. You watch movies like Lone Survivor. and you see the stuff that happens there. And then like I was hearing your story from Eric, and I was just like, that's like the wildest story I'd ever heard, you know? To know like somebody who knows somebody who this is like happening to, like hits real close to home. And the story is, it's just an unbelievable story. Again, like go get this book, go read it. You can get it for like $17 on Amazon. It's an amazing read, but it's also
or you can get it on nicklavery.com, right?
Yeah.
Nickthemachine.com, right?
Yeah. You can, machinenick.org.
.com.
machinenick.com. Sorry. And so the book is also kind of, so it talks about your experience, and then it pivots to, I'm going back with my team. I'm going back to the Middle East where my team is, or wherever my team needs me, and I'm going to figure out how to get there. And then you go through this process. I would imagine it was mentally challenging to figure out, well, how the hell do I do this? Because no one's ever done it before, number one, right? So you're kind of like writing the book on it, no pun intended, or pun intended, I guess. Right. But so...
Well, they need to make a movie out of it.
Well, yeah, they do.
Are you talking to anybody about a movie deal?
I've been approached many times at this point,
really,
by different writers or screenwriters, directors, whatnot. My sister-in-law works in that industry out in LA, so she at one point posted a picture of me, and then it just went bananas. Her whole network went crazy. I'm like, yeah, I'm not into something like that. At least not yet.
Yeah,
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, the book's amazing.
Keep the bidding wars going.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, keep the brand built, and then make that move. So as you're going through these mental gymnastics on like, all right, I got to figure out what to do, right? How did you get from, all right, I'm sitting here, I'm in a hospital bed, my right leg is missing. I am, dozens of surgeries, right? Like how many total surgeries did you have?
35
40, surgeries.
like that,
so I mean, that's insane right there. And it's like you go from that to, all right, now I'm good. Like, get me back in action. What do I need to do? How do I need to get there? Like, it takes a special mindset for that, right? I mean, not everybody can do that, or can everybody do that?
I would argue anybody can do it, while also saying that it is unique and unorthodox, but an option for anyone.
You've definitely set the bar.
All you got to do is get your leg shot off, and then you can try it too, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, make Special Forces first.
Yeah. I think the goal is to be able to inspire others to recognize the amount of unlocked potential that they have within them right now without having to get a limb shot off by a machine gun.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because for me, that was the catalyst.
Yeah.
To recognize how much more I actually had in me, like work ethic, discipline, but it was all there the whole time. It wasn't like, Neo in the fucking Matrix when I'm in Walter Reed and they just ram a spike into my head and like upload all this shit. It was already there.
Yeah.
This was just the spark that was necessary for me to recognize it was there.
It was your decision point, right? Like you talk about a lot of different decision points in your life.
Yeah.
And that we all have decision points coming up. And that was it, right? Like you're presented with another option and you took it.
Yeah. And, for a lot of it, man, I was able to bypass immediately the what am I going to do now question. And that's where a lot of guys get stuck, whether that's on the offset of a traumatic event or some rut or some scenario or adversity. It's what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And that can become cyclical. Like I can't figure out the what. Well, I knew the answer to that question already immediately. That really was never a question in my mind. Like, what are you going to do? It's like, well, you're going to go back to doing what you do. So we already know the what, which is cool to have that question answered. All roads now proceed to the how, and so it certainly is a complex problem. One that I couldn't even conceptualize the complexity. But complex problems oftentimes require the simplest of solutions. So when you just kind of walk it backwards, the answers become quite simple. Not to confuse that with easy, extremely difficult, but also quite simple in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't quit, right?
That's quite simple.
Pretty much. I was flipping through, the social media apps or whatever, and I came across this fact as I'm reading the book, and they're talking about kintsugi, the art of broken pieces. It's is a Japanese method for repairing broken ceramics with a special lacquer mixed with gold, silver, or platinum. And the philosophy behind the technique is to recognize the history of the object and to visibly incorporate the repair into the new piece instead of disguising it. The process usually results in something more beautiful than the original. And I was like, oh, wow, I can really draw some parallels, some distinctions between your book and, pottery.
It's a great reference.
Yeah, that's,
It's
kind of
awesome.
a look at some of the pottery. So I thought it was kind of cool.
That is cool.
I remember a story from the book when you were going through PT and you were learning how to, I believe it was how to train with barbells with your prosthetic, and you either fell, I can't remember if you fell or and it was just a full yard sale. Yeah, and like just
disaster.
Equipment everywhere, people getting hit with bars and medicine balls and everything else.
Yeah, your favorite team was there, right?
The Yankees were there. Yeah, the Yankees were there, which made it just that much better of a story. Yeah.
That's funny. So what's that like, man? Like, I mean, you know, when you have to, I mean, you've been lifting your whole life, right? And I mean, everybody who's ever lifted a barbell before probably knows how to do a squat or a front squat, back squat, deadlift, whatever it is, one-legged pistols. And now you're missing the leg. And do you lift with the leg? I mean, I've seen you in video, like lifting without it. I don't remember if I've seen any like videos of you like doing any sort of squatting with it or anything like that, but I'm assuming you probably do, right?
Yeah, I'll do both. And, you know, my training that I was going through back when I was trying to get back onto the teams, and once I was on the team and I was living that, you know, high-octane operator lifestyle, was different than it is today. And this is more of just a recent transition. But, yeah, back then it was bigger, faster, stronger, more endurance, no matter what. So it's purely performance-driven. So my training would include both prosthetic on stuff and then also truly single-legged stuff. I talk about doing like a single-leg deadlift, and people are like, well, obviously it's single leg because you only have one of them. I'm like, well, for me, there's two options. Like I can do it with a prosthetic on, which looks pretty typical to anyone deadlifting, minus the robot-looking leg thing.
Right.
But then I can also do stuff without the prosthetic on at all, and I just noticed that there was certain advantages to doing one versus the other. If I'm doing something truly single-legged, and oftentimes it would include much more stabilization, range of motion, ways to activate that side of my body, which really is my motor, right? Like that is what moves me. So I can isolate it in a lot of ways, even with compound movements to work on strength, range of motion, flexibility, whatever.
Yeah. And you also talk in your book about your really good friend and trainer, Paul.
Yeah, Paul Newt.
Yeah, I've met Paul. Eric introduced me to Paul a couple of times, and I think I trained at his facility once. Great dude. He tells an interesting story in the book as well. But how did he help you with your? Did he help you at all with your training after the fact? Yeah,
oh, yeah.
I'm sure. Like. He was like your consigliere for training and nutrition.
Yeah, consigliere.
I'm not Italian, so I don't say it properly.
Yeah, man. I mean, Paul's been an intricate aspect of my life now for, 15 plus years, all the way back to when I was playing ball in college. And then when I was done playing ball, still in college, then he was my primary go-to, because I didn't have my strength coaches at the university, and then I leveraged him as an asset all the way through my train up for basic training, for selection, to get through the Q course, life on the teams. He's been my number one asset for programming and training specifically, but also he's just incredibly knowledgeable about life in general. So he's been a mentor of mine, my counsel Yeti, in a lot of ways now for many, many years.
Yeah. I remember seeing a post of his on social media after he had open heart surgery.
Yeah.
And he was getting back to Olympic lifts and that kind of thing. Man, he got real strong, real fast after that surgery.
Yeah.
I noticed.
He's an animal.
Yeah, he's an animal. You guys just animals running packs, as they say.
Usually, yeah.
What's been your most, this aside, the experience of being shot and then, having your leg amputated, that whole experience aside, what have been some of the most memorable experiences that you've had during your deployments and what are some of the good things that you've, experienced, the fun things, like a lot of people hear about the bad, right?
Sure.
And like, hey, people get deployed and you lose a teammate or a close friend, right? Like these are brothers, and some people die in action, some people get wounded in action, but we don't hear enough about the good stories, the fun stories, the cool stories.
Yeah.
Like, tell us some of those.
Yeah, man. First, just generally speaking, the funniest stories that we have usually come from an event that could have very easily resulted in someone being killed over some type of shenanigans, probably pretty poor decision that was made. But because no one died, it's now a hysterical story, right? Like, let me take this ATV four-wheeler and see if I can't jump it over the bonfire that we created on our camp. And because no one died,
Sounds right.
it's like, great story. But that could have easily gone the other way, and this would have been like a tragedy. Man, the life on the ODA, it's you and 11 other guys, and most of my experiences operating within that dynamic were in the most austere shitholes you can imagine. And when you're surrounded by those that want to harm you, and you just have each other to rely on, that becomes pretty powerful pretty fast. And we can also get conditioned to, as a single organism, is actually quite amazing. To tell you a story, there's a time we were going on a patrol, we get ambushed, pretty typical. This is Afghanistan, 2012. Me and a couple of my teammates, we began maneuvering with a few of our partner force guys. We're getting attacked from this like green zone area, thick brush and kind of a apple orchard. And my boy Nate and I and some of our Afghans were on this bridge, and all the fires just like turned towards us, like PKM, a couple of RPGs, and the wall on the side of this bridge is maybe like 3 feet on either side. So we both just like hit the deck, and it's just like ripping the sides of this bridge like to pieces. And we can't move. We get on the radio. We're talking to our JTAC. He calls in an A-10 to do some gun runs, which is awesome. Like, as this is happening, we're looking at each other kind of like laughing. Like we can't go anywhere. We can't move. Machine guns like ripping apart this bridge we're on. We're kind of giggling at each other like, this kind of sucks, but it's like, for some reason, it's funny. Well, the A-10 is circling. You guys are familiar with what the A-10 does. It's got a 30 millimeter machine gun on its nose. So this thing's designed to come down like fast and low and open up a machine gun. It's a fixed wing plane that comes down fast. Well, this thing will do what we call a racetrack. It basically goes around in a circle around the objective while the JTAC or whoever is talking them on target, right? So they're looking out of the cockpit to get a fix on what's happening on the ground, so they can see the bad guys, they can see the good guys, they can figure out their approach, their egress, all the things. When I'd experienced A-10 gun runs before, well, this time the A-10's coming down to make its strafe run, and it is nosediving like directly on top of me and Nate and a couple of our Afghan partners. And I'm looking up, and I'm on the phone on the radio with our JTAC. We call him Dougie Fresh. I'm like, no, Dougie, this bird is like coming straight down on top of us. Does he know where we are? And he's like, yeah, man, you're good. Just stay where you are. Don't move. He sees you. And this thing's coming straight down on top of us. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. Like, it looks like this plane's about to land on me.
And this isn't the first time you had an A-10 called in for you, huh?
No, but from this vantage point, this was a first.
Right.
And I was wildly uncomfortable. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? And he's like, you're fine, man. Just stay where you are. Sure enough, thing comes in. It pulls up like 200 feet off the deck, right on top of us, opens up, smokes, all these dudes in the green zone, takes off, gunfight over. Well, what's great about it is the Army and Air Force, they record all of the audio traffic between the JTACs and the birds in case there's something that happens, right? So they record that for historical purposes. Our internal team's traffic, that doesn't get recorded, which is a good thing because we're usually talking some nonsense to each other.
Yeah.
So it was maybe a week later that Doug's command sent him the audio MP4 clip of that day. And he played it for us. And all you can hear is the JTAC talking to the pilot, right? And when they talk, it's actually quite chill, right? Like they talk to each other almost like they're bros. And machine guns going off in the background, but it's very calm and very deliberate. And I can just hear where I am in the conversation. I can't hear myself talking, but based on what Doug is saying to the pilot, I can hear myself as I'm interjecting because the whole time I'm like, Doug, dude, like what's happening? This dude's going to land on us.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, dude, call sign X. We got friendlies at location, blah, 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 blah. And the pilot comes back like, yep, eyes on friendlies, eyes on target. Like, I'm good. I got your boys. Tell them to stay where they are. Pause. Doug goes back to the pilot. Hey, man, let's just confirm again, like friendlies, grid, X, blah, 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 like on the bridge, south by southwest. And the pilot's like, dude, his call sign. He's like, right now I've got eyes on 2 6'5" Viking looking motherfuckers. There's no mistaking who your guys are. Like I can see them. So, and actually because of that message traffic, we changed our team logo and motto to a Viking.
Yeah.
Because of that transaction
No way.
between the two of them.
That's great.
The Vikings. That's hilarious.
Now, where did you come up with the Spartan logo for Machine Neck? How'd you come up with that? Because it's a Spartan helmet.
Yeah, it is. I mean, one of our designs is that, and that had always kind of been in my mind. And, the Spartan helmet is quite common in the military genre world. I just had, and I absorbed that, and really, I had adopted the mindset of come back with your shield or on it on that deployment in 2012 because we were getting into it just about every day, and I needed something to remind myself every time we were going out the door, knowing that this could be the day. I needed something to keep me going and willing to go out there and lay it all on the line for a cause. That just kind of became my expression. And years later, when I obviously decided to create something to move forward with, there was a brand. I really didn't think of it at that point, but that's just what came to my mind, man. And eventually I created this really god awful image that I snipped off of like Google Images, and I went in there with like Microsoft Word pad, and I scribbled in these little red beads for eyes, and I used that as kind of a logo, or at least a visual reminder of what I was trying to build or what I could envision. And I had that as a thing for like over 2 years, and then eventually I got my cousin involved. He's a graphic designer, and I was like, hey man, this thing is a complete pile of shit, but I like the concept. Can you come up something that sucks less than this? So he created what we see today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, the silhouette now.
That's the picture that was used on Stars and Stripes, right?
What's that,
That picture was used on Stars and Stripes. There was an article about you on Stars and Stripes, too.
Yeah, I've seen that photo all over the place.
Yeah, I saw that photo. I was getting ready to retire from the military. I remember reading that article about you. I'm like, wow, this dude's badass.
Yeah.
I'm done complaining.
I'll never complain again.
Yeah. We got some audio problems, it sounds like, but it's fine. We're good.
I was looking at the fitness portion of the book, and it made me think, as you were saying, there's not really any fitness apps that you love. Have you ever thought about coming out with your own fitness app? Something easier, something that doesn't have so much nonsense in it?
I have.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have. It's actually currently on our slate.
Good.
Is that going to be just a fitness app? I don't know. I think maybe something a little more all-encompassing. maybe wraps in like a journal aspect to it as well. But whatever it is, assuming it ever becomes a thing, it's got to be just Bonnie simple. You know, a lot of these fitness apps, in my opinion, they're just so over-engineered. And I get on there, there's like a million things going on. I'm like, you know what, dude? Like, give me just like a regular notepad to do this on because I want it to be very basic, man.
Yeah, track on a notepad. We were joking around. If you turn around in the corner there, you'll see a nice pencil sharpener.
There it is. Yeah. Old school.
Old school, bro.
Yeah.
Handwritten journals.
I
My
was
son
telling
and
you, the only thing that's out of place is that pencil sharpener. What the hell do you have a pencil sharpener?
like, nah, man, I'm in a gym. Need a pencil sharpener.
Smart.
My son and I just started doing a Wendler 531 program.
Oh, yeah,
so
right
I
on.
got him this junior barbell for his birthday on January 1st. He's 13. And there's actually an app that we use. It's a Wendler 531 app that we use. And it's pretty good, but it's designed specifically for the 531 program.
Right on.
But it auto calculates like your, percentages and, the lifts, and it tells you exactly what to do. It automatically tracks your time in between sets and reps and all that stuff. And it gives you a little notes section to, jot down some notes about your session. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good as far as apps are concerned. Like I'm like you, man. Like I've always been like either a spreadsheet guy, like I just draft something up in Excel, and like Eric and I used to lift all the time together at Oracle. We'd go like down to the lunchroom, on lunch break, and they had a gym at the campus, and we'd go lift during our lunch break, or we'd get there real early in the morning before traffic, and we'd work out, and then we'd go work all day. But I was always handwriting my journals or printing out something on like a one sheet Excel where I could just jot down notes on the side, because for me it's like the best way to track.
Yeah,
something
man.
to be said for writing things with your own handwriting.
Dude, as much as I agree with everything you just said, my issue with it is when it comes time to do any analysis, it gets real hard to like flip through like hundreds of pages if you're trying to track like long-term progress or wherever there's any deficiencies.
Or read your penmanship.
Sometimes that because I fight up on pre-workout and I'm like scribbling, I'm sweating all over it. So like the analytical aspect of it, because now I can go in there and do like control find like squat, and like all my pages with the squat will come up, or like whatever nutrition, and it's like boom. It's a faster way to do analysis after the fact.
Yeah.
But I do like the simplicity of just jot down what you're doing, and that's it. Move on.
We have my wife and I run an interior design business, and we sell furniture. But I have a kid. A young man, just graduated high school, and he's up playing college football. He's a lineman. He's a center. I was a lineman, so I'm like, we're bros,
Nice.
And his weight room, he's telling me about his weight room in this tiny little liberal arts college in Kansas. But they have their bars, make sure that they do the whole rep and maintain a consistent pace with all their reps. I mean, like, it's very well monitored. And all the tech is built into the bars. And
Oh, really?
yeah.
So
And I was
like
whoa.
tempo
the
built
bar?
into the
Yeah,
bar?
right in the bar.
Oh,
I have
wow.
a machine, just kind of watching them and making sure everything occurs correctly.
So-
they have to do perfect form, essentially, in order to get their reps.
Well, that's real interesting. I never heard of a bar with like, it's almost like GPS in the bar, I guess. So it like tracks the exact motion.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That is wild. I've never heard of that before.
I know, because I used to max out a little bit too much. I squatted a whole bunch,
Yeah, we all
600
do.
plus. And
Big.
I shouldn't have probably done that as much as I did. And I was just encouraging him, like, hey, man, don't max out too much.
Yeah.
You're going to jack up your hips like I did.
Yeah.
So I just don't want anybody to hurt themselves.
Yeah.
But
It
then he started telling me all about this. I was like,
get out of
I
control
think you
pretty
guys
quick.
got it taken care of. Yeah.
That's crazy. I've never heard of that. I would imagine they have that stuff in the military, but I guess not.
No, man, I've never seen that before.
No.
Great resource, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah, I'm a big fan of tracking things. And then, like all the stuff that you talk about in your book, man, track, assess, and then, reassess and adjust and all those. That's like, it strikes a chord with me because it's how I've always operated with my training, my lifting. As you can see, take my lifting pretty seriously. I brought it in house.
Yeah.
It's just it's easier than going to the gym and like, you know, like I like to get in, I like to get out, and I don't have an excuse because it's in my house. And you know, I'm trying to instill that on my kids as they get older. My son, it's like, dude, like, you're gonna watch TV upstairs, like, let's go lift, you know, like, let's take an hour and let's just go lift.
Yeah.
And then he's using the app, he's tracking everything, and he's all excited about it. He's like, hey, what are we doing today? I'm like, chest. He's like,
Hell yeah, let's get it.
he loves squats though. Squats are his favorite. My least favorite are his favorite. But
Perfect.
hey, it's all
The
good.
magic can happen if you can make leg day your favorite day. That's when things can start to explode.
I know, man. I've always tried to make legs my
hard.
favorite day,
Yeah.
but it's just like I've always had like IT band tightness, left knee issue. You know what I mean?
Something,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's always been my best asset, the legs. I don't know.
Asset.
Legs and ass. That's exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Pun intended. Yeah.
That's
All
right.
that stuff.
That's right. I've always been big on pulls. I like
Yeah.
the deadlifts, yeah, personally. And the chest. Everybody loves chest day.
Mondays, right?
Yeah, I used to work out with this dude named Alton Carter when I was in 8th grade. It was really when I got into weightlifting, and he actually wrote a book too. The Boy Who Carried Bricks. Foster kid, grew up, you know, at foster home, and his foster parents used to make them, if they did anything wrong, you know, if they looked at him wrong or did anything, or they're just having a bad day, they'd make them carry bricks from the house all the way over to like the other side of the field, like this huge long thing. Like take all these bricks over there and then move them back.
As
that
a
was
punishment.
the punishment, yeah.
Wow.
But this dude, he taught my sister how to tumble. My sister's a head cheerleader on the high school cheer squad or whatever, but he had a tumbling team, but he also worked with me one-on-one lifting, and we'd lift every morning and every night, every day, and I'd sit there and watch what he ate, you know, and it was all this clean food, you know, chicken, tuna, baked potato, pretty much. But this dude came in second in Mr. Universe, I guess, and this is probably in like 1990.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But dude's just a really cool dude. You check that book out, actually, Boy Who Carried Bricks.
Yeah.
Pretty cool deal. But speaking of my sister, she is actually a therapist at Triple Army Medical Center, and she actually had a question for you.
Oh, cool.
So she wanted me to ask you, in military mental health, we often discuss ways to reprogram post-deployment and how to reconcile one setting with another when the two are incredibly different. What tools or skills do you use to make these adjustments from one setting to another?
Oh, wow, man, that's a great question, and I appreciate what she does. One of the greatest pieces of advice I got was from one of my cadre instructors when I was going through the Q course, and he's like, "For those of you that are single, eventually you'll be married. For those of you that are married, like, listen up." So this was specific to spouse relationship, although you could apply the same methodology regardless, really. It's like, you guys are going to leave. You're going to be gone 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever it is. Who's ever left back home, let's say it's your wife, to put kind of a context around it. She's going to have to make some adjustments while you're gone. Like you do stuff while you're here. When you leave, she's got to figure out a way to keep everything happening while you're gone. So the systems will change. The processes will change. When you get back, you may be inclined for things to be exactly the way they were when you left, or if they're not, which they won't be, you want to get them back to what's normal for you, like immediately. Whether that's, this is where the cups go, why are the dishes over here? No, like, I take out the trash on Mondays and you're supposed to do this. Like, you want to go back to your normal.
Yeah.
Normal there's a new normal that's going on now.
Yeah.
You're the one that left. You're the one that has to reintegrate back into that. So when you get home, as much as you may want to get back to normal, and a lot of that comes from a good place, like you want to get back to contributing and helping and like doing your part and like being a member of that team, come back and just assess the current system, assess the current process, like learn what she has done in your absence, and then slowly begin to integrate yourself within the existing way of business is being conducted. Mm-hmm. And then gradually it will kind of naturally take its course where things go back to the way they were, or maybe it looks different now that you're home for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
But do not come back and try to just full scale, like boom, like this is all wrong. Let's go back the way it was.
Just standard reentry. Hey,
Right? Just
yeah.
assess the dynamic, assess the environment, and then gradually make small adjustments.
Is that the DDAE or I'm screwing up these acronyms? I read so many acronyms in your book, but
DDAE? I don't know what that is.
like you get there, you assess the situation, and then you make action steps and then you execute them. I don't know.
I agree with what you just said.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that, or at least not as eloquently as you just did. But essentially, yes, that.
Right.
Yeah.
You show up, you figure out what's going on,
Yeah.
and come up with a plan, and you execute the plan, right? So
Yeah. I mean, your initial job is to learn. Like you're in a learning mode, and then you're gradually reintegrating yourself into what the new norm is to then be able to work towards something that's optimal now that you're both back in the game.
Yeah. I have a buddy who was in Secret Service, and he was telling me, without getting into too much detail, he was explaining to me the length of time that he had to go through training. It's a 6-month course, and you're basically, you're gone for 6 months. You're not coming back. They let you come back for like a week around the holidays, and then you're gone for another 6 months or something like that. So you get to see your family like for 2-3 weeks out of a year while you go through this training. And he was explaining to me exactly that. Like that was his biggest challenge. Like he came home for like a 3-week kind of break around the holidays, and he was like, oh yeah, like everything was normal. But it wasn't normal.
Right.
To him, it was ass backwards, and everything was completely inefficient. And he didn't understand what was going on. But to his wife and to his kids, there was a new normal, like you said. And it was, hey, this is the way things get done now. Like you've been gone for months. I got a new process. The new process is the new way. And if you want to live in this house with me, it's my way, right? You learn my way, So. Yeah. I mean, I've heard that before, and it's totally true. I can completely see that being the case because even as a civilian, like just, living in a house with a wife and 3 kids and 2 dogs, she's got a process, and the way she does things, it's like elegant chaos, I call it, because, she's all over the place, but she gets shit done. And we're always joking around. She's got sticky notes everywhere and lists, and they're all scribbled on. And of course, I got my like nice orderly list. I've got a notepad on my phone, and everything's got its place. And I'm a little OCD like that. And she's just like, whatever. Like I know where everything is.
Yep.
And I'm just like, how can you find anything? She's like, I know where everything is. And I'm okay.
What'd you call it? Elegant disaster?
Elegant chaos.
Elegant chaos. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that.
Elegant chaos.
I like it.
That's good.
It is. She's just got to figure it out, but it can look chaotic to the unknowing eye, But
Organized chaos, I think, is the.
Organized chaos.
I think that's the way I've heard it described the most.
Yeah, this isn't organized chaos at all, though.
Elegant, though.
It's elegant.
elegant.
It's chaotic, but it's elegant because she,
Right.
she makes it look good, I guess.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yeah.
That's very sweet of you, Jeremy.
You still see action? Or are you
like
done with
combat
that?
type action? So, no, is the short answer.
Okay.
I left the ODA, which stands for Operational Detachment Alpha, a really long words to say a team. I left the team life now about 4 months ago.
Okay.
Time frame. I've now been elevated, if you want to use that word, where I now work at the company level. So
Okay.
just the next hierarchy of leadership, where I now work as a company operations warrant. And that in itself was a really hard transition. Most of us, we come into this business to be on the team, and that's the only job we really want to do. It's not one you can do forever, and it takes its toll, regardless of how many limbs you have. It takes its toll physically, mentally, emotionally on the family, we just talked about. So, I had a great run, 15 years doing that stuff. And it was the right time. So I look back with zero regret. And surprisingly, my current position is fulfilling. And I would have sworn to you guys, like whatever I do post team time, I'm gonna hate. I'm gonna be miserable for the rest of my career. Doing the job I'm doing now for like a week, I was like, oh no, man, this is actually pretty legit. Because as you move up in leadership, your area of influence, it broadens. So you have the chance to impact a greater audience outside of just like a 12-man team. But my days of kicking down doors are behind me now.
Yeah.
Well, it comes across in the book when you start talking. I was looking at the section where you talk about being a master and a protege. And the master section is a lot smaller than the protege section. And that just speaks volumes right there about how you order those two in importance, right? So,
yeah, it's an honor to be placed into that mentorship role where then you now have these proteges that you're grooming and that they look up to you and they emulate you. And while I believe it's incredibly important to, pay it forward and give back and share your knowledge and what you've learned for both laterally and more importantly, those coming up behind us, like the next generation that are going to lead and run this whole thing that we got going on here. That's incredibly important in itself, but it actually also makes you better at what you do. When you're able to teach something, it will sharpen your own blade as well. So it's working in both of those capacities.
absolutely. I've always been interested in helping teach other people. I think it's always selfishly. I was interested in teaching other people, telling them how to do things and helping them with their techniques and everything because it sharpens your skills, sharpens your ability to learn math or blocking or whatever it is, anything. Pass on the knowledge, right? Like, teach them how to hunt buffalo.
It builds your tactical capacity to do the thing, but then it also, I think, it feeds your soul as well, which is also incredibly important.
Yeah.
Yeah, mentoring someone else is extremely fulfilling. In my career as a software sales executive, we do a lot of mentoring of younger salespeople or people who aren't salespeople that want to be salespeople, right? And they want to understand what do they need to do to, learn the right skills or, understand the right approaches to the job. And so I've mentored, a lot of people over the years in my 20-year career in that space. And it's extremely fulfilling, like seeing these people get promoted or seeing these people, get hired into new roles that have elevated them and their skill set to, become better earners for themselves and their families and all that stuff. It's good it's fun to see that stuff. It's very fulfilling.
Yeah.
Real fulfilling.
Yeah, it is.
Another thing I love about the book is the movie quotes, the humor that's in there throughout. Like these are the same things I'm saying with my buddies too, Red Jacket, Green Jacket, all these movie quotes are hilarious.
Yeah.
And the footnotes, that's almost like a whole book of knock-knock jokes or something, It's just kind of like, every time I saw one of those little numbers coming up, I knew there'd be a punchline at the bottom of the page and I couldn't wait to get to it. So I thought it was really entertaining, great read, easy to read, really fun, exciting read.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want the footnotes, man. One is I did want to be able to introduce a little bit of humor, kind of break up the ice a little bit, because this gets into some heavy stuff, and people are doing a lot of soul searching when they're in this and they're having that internal dialogue, and a lot of that can get uncomfortable really quick. You start to question your own discipline and your own structure and your own work ethic, and this book will trigger those internal conversations. So some humor in there, like let's just take things like easy here for a second, let's just relax for a minute. But also the footnote being a tool, because I wanted to maintain the way that I talk and my actual authenticity in my language. And a lot of that's very military heavy because I've been doing this now, coming up on 16 years. In the military jargon, it's edgy and it's aggressive and it's very acronym heavy, but it's got a feel to it. I wanted that feel, but I also needed people to know like what the fuck it is I'm talking about. When I say like MRAP, it's like I don't know what you're saying right now. So like, let me throw something in there to explain what it is, while I can also keep the level of authenticity I'm going for.
The MRAP, that's actually MVAV too, the acronym within the acronym.
Right.
And in fact, the town of Prosper, where we're broadcasting out of, actually has an MRAP at their police headquarters.
Do they?
Yeah, they brought it through here just a couple of years ago.
That's legit.
Yeah.
Legit. You must have really pissed someone off if they come rolling up in that thing.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's crazy. You think, well, then you start thinking, it's like, what do they need something like that for at the police department level in these towns? It's like
some heavy machinery.
Yeah.
They
you
just
think?
like to spend money.
They do.
Heavy machinery.
I know. Yeah. What do we have all this money in our budget. What do we need to spend it on?
They brought it through here just as it was for like the golf cart parade. It wasn't for anything serious, just to throw that out there.
We have absolutely nothing else to use this for, so let's bring it to a golf cart parade.
Yeah, they do these golf cart parades in our neighborhoods. Like a lot of people have golf carts around here because it's like a community. You know, as you've seen when you drove through, it's like a community, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's, I don't know, however, a 5 mile like diameter in this community, maybe. Like, is that it? Like the max?
Sure.
I mean, you just hop in your golf cart and you can just ride across like the community and go visit your friends if it's nice enough out. And they do these golf cart parades. You know, for the 4th of July and around Halloween, and you get to see all the
Christmas.
decorations, Christmas and all that. And they rolled it out for that. It's like, we're having a golf cart parade. Let's
Get the
send that
MRAP.
thing out there.
Get the-
Scare the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't ever seen it being used, but I don't know. I guess the United States and a lot of other military powers have some things that they'd rather just never use too.
Yeah, they say it's better to have and need than, what is it, need and not have?
That's right.
Like that?
That's
Yeah,
right.
There you go.
So I got some like just crazy questions for you, but before I get to those, I wanted to ask you about being a father. So you got 2 boys,
2 boys.
and how old are they now? 5?
5 and the youngest will be 2 in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they've only ever known you with the prosthetic, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So all that seems real normal to them,
Totally normal.
right? And I'm sure that's going to be a crazy conversation someday when they get older.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, we have the conversation now.
right.
And
it's
my
just a little-
oldest,
yeah.
who's, now in kindergarten, 5 years old, like he's a little human now. He's got his own thoughts and his own
Oh, yeah.
personality, character, and he absorbs things like a sponge. I went to this like Dads and Donuts event at his school.
Those are
School.
great.
It's like dads only. They brought donuts, you hang out, you in the cafeteria, you go take a little tour, hang out, whatever. Cool event. So this is the first time that he had been in the school for several months. So he's got his crew, he's got his friends and whatnot. And I come in, and of course, like all heads are turning, which happens with anyone really, regardless of the age, but certainly with young people. They're
Yeah.
trying to process what they're looking at, this Iron Man,
Right.
massive.
Well, it's like
human.
when you rolled up and Hunter was like, "Dad, where's his leg?" I'm like, "I told you what happened to his leg."
Right.
He's like,
You know?
he doesn't have one though. I'm like, I know. I explained this to you.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really remember, but then he remembers, and then
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And they got no filter.
Yeah.
Whatever's in their mind is coming out hot. You know? So all his buddies, all his classmates are all like, hey Dom, like what your dad, blah blah blah, and he's like beaming and real quick to be like, yeah, bad guy shot his leg off with a machine gun, but they killed him, so don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
And I'm like, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this in here right now, but that was pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
So like it's just normal
cool.
for him.
Yeah.
Clearly proud of you.
What's it done to your mindset? Now being a father, right? Being in special forces, going through all the shit that you've gone through, and then as you continue on in your career in the Army, what has being a father done? What has being a father done to your mindset now as someone who's in the Army? Now before it was you and your wife, now it's you, your wife, and your 2 little boys.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. A couple of things come to mind. A lot come to mind. I'll just touch on 2 quickly. One is when you don't have the luxury of quantity in terms of time and energy, it opens up an opportunity to increase the quality. So while I'm running around and I'm going on deployments and I'm going off site to train for months at a time, and I'm barely home, you have to maximize the quality. And that doesn't need to be, we're going to go to Disney World, once a week. Like quality isn't about like spending a lot of money or going on trips. Like quality is nothing more than being in that moment, in that time, and just being very deliberate about that, which was hard for me. It still is a challenge. And for a lot of us that are heavy into our careers or heavy into our ambitions or our hobbies or like whatever it is, it can be very easy for us to, when we're in family time, for our mind to be somewhere else, or literally like on the phone, emailing and like answering texts and stuff. Like you're not in the moment. And I still make that mistake, but I'm making it less and less over time. So increasing the quality. Like when we're playing Legos, like I'm all in on Legos right now, bro. When we're building a fort, like this is gonna be the best fort anyone's ever seen in their life for the next 90 minutes. And I don't care unless there's a Scud missile heading towards my house right now. I don't give a shit what's going on at work. Like that problem will be there tomorrow. Like right now it's like deliberate, in the moment, family focused time. So the introduction of my kids have brought many, many gifts, but that was certainly one of them that I learned. And then the second, kind of more operationally speaking, you know, I've deployed now multiple times since being a father. And prior to that point, there were certainly times that I ventured into the realm of reckless in terms of operations. You get that, you know that you got that little dude, in my case, that's back home. You know, the first time I deployed as a father, he was 6 months, you know, and I was gone for 6. And while you still need to maintain focus on the mission and on the operation, I did find myself being just a little bit more deliberate when it came to my planning of what we're doing and then my execution of what I was doing. So like my risk calculus process became that much more sharpened because I had to get home for this. Like prior to that, like with your shield or on it type shit, like that worked for me then. As a dad, that still was there, but I was like, I need to minimize the likelihood of the on the shield thing as much as possible. And my kids were the ones that inspired that level of maturity and growth.
Yeah, you don't want to fall victim to the ready, aim, fire, and aim too much, but you do have to aim instead of ready, fire, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I mean, the first part of your question, it reminded me of, I have 2 stepchildren, 8 and 11. And the term used for dads that have their kids, you know, way less than their moms is Disneyland dads. So that drew that parallel immediately as, you know, that's something you have in common with divorcees, coincidentally. You know, it's Disneyland dads, and you actually brought Disneyland up. But yeah. Just
and,
like
and
that.
I've been asked, you know, like I've been asked many times whether it's about kids or not, like, haven't you sacrificed enough? Like, when is enough? Like, you just keep going at this business and in this life, and you know, you got kids at home. Like, don't you feel an obligation to, you know, maybe alter what you're doing professionally for them? Which is a fair question. You know, we live in a dangerous environment. It's like the point of us existing. What I come back to when I think about that moment is, you know, at some point in the future, I could say it now, but he's 5. He's not going to totally get it. When this kid's like 14, 15, I sit him down and I tell him, I look him in his face and I say, man, you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. You know, you can do anything you set your mind to. It's kind of cliche bumper sticker, but that's real. There is a way to get to whatever it is you want to do and or whoever it is you want to become. And I have to have lived that for that to be authentic to him. I can't preach that from a place of bullshit. I need him to know that I lived it and I demonstrated that, and he witnessed it for a lot of his time. He was too young at the time to truly process it, but at 14, 15, he'll be able to look back and be like, no, my dad did do whatever he set his mind to. And although it was deemed impossible at the time, like he found a way to do it. That future conversation is a big part of what keeps me pushing and looking for that next mountain to climb.
Yeah. Did it have anything to do with your decision to elevate your career outside of the world of combat? Or was that
You mean
more
leaving the team?
Yeah.
No.
Or was that more of a natural progression?
Yeah, that was a
Timing
natural
and-
progression, man. You know, I was at that point where I was about to be promoted, you know, again, and like getting looked at. I was being groomed for that next level of leadership. And, you know, coming off of my last deployment last year, we were in Iraq, the miles had piled up and, you know, all the foam rolling and the band work. And a lot of it was physical for me. Like all these techniques you use to like warm up, cool down, stay durable, stay flexible, stay mobile. Like I was having to just do so much of that for like basic physical tasks. I was like, okay, man, the writing's on the wall. I got home from that trip. I talked to my doc, my physical therapists. They all asked the same question. Like, how much longer are you going to keep doing this, man? Like, you've been doing this on one leg almost a decade. Your body's compensating in ways in which God did not intend it to function. Like, you will need both your hips replaced. You will need your knee replaced. Like if you keep going the way you're going, these are
Break
inevitable.
yourself. Yeah.
And so, in a way, yes, because I began realizing, like, at what point is it enough? Like, I'm going to stay in and still be an asset, but is it worth one more deployment into combat? But I'll be wheelchair bound by 50, and I won't be able to teach my son how to wrestle, or like. So I was like, my kids also pulled me up into kind of a 30,000-foot view. While that decision needed to happen, they enabled me mentally to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine it makes your decision a little bit easier, even though it's a tough decision. It's like, well, look, like, I do want to be able to teach my kids how to wrestle,
Yeah.
or do Krav Maga or whatever.
Yeah. Jiu-jitsu.
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 Yeah.
Brazilian.
Yeah. What's your favorite lift? Squats.
My favorite lift is probably the deadlift.
Is it?
Yeah, it's probably the deadlift.
Mine too.
I suck at deadlift.
I fucking love deadlifts.
Don't
man.
know why.
Yeah.
I always fuck my back up and everything. I do. My form is great, but I'm just like, look around all the mobility shit I got in here, dude. I'm rolling. I got the Theraguns. I got the freaking massage chair. I got the sticks. It's just
Red light
bands,
therapy.
red light therapy, you name it. I do it
Ralph
all. So I
tape.
get it.
Yeah.
Not on your level in terms of the level of mobility work that I need to do to like maintain. But I'm 47, and it's like it gets harder and harder and harder, to be able to do those lifts, to be able to, recover.
Yeah, I resorted to yoga,
Yeah.
doing things that
Yoga's
you have
good
to
stuff,
do.
man.
I love it.
Don't knock yoga. It's
I'm
good
not
stuff,
yoga.
man.
I was yoga model,
I believe it. That was my first thought when I met you.
He was a
Hey,
he
you know
was
what?
a
You're
yoga
probably
model.
a yoga model.
He,
probably.
what's funny is it's true, and he was on an app, right? Weren't you on the
Yeah.
yoga app
keep talking
for the
about it.
for
I
the
can't stop.
thing? Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the app for the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the app on the website. I got the free T-shirt to prove it.
Yeah.
I got the how many months of free training. It was great. It's a
Yeah.
great workout. Very good for flexibility. Great for
Yeah, man.
any
Strength
deficiencies
everything.
you have in your
Yeah.
body composition. I mean, like you can't. It's hard to hurt yourself in yoga. Because you're not lifting. You're not maxing out every day like I was in the weight gym.
Not until you're trying to do like scorpion pose and like your hands. Like that's Christy's next thing. She's like, I want to learn scorpion pose. I'm like, fucking crazy. You're crazy.
No, headstand was as exotic as I got.
Yeah, I can't even do that, man.
No.
Maybe a pike. Maybe. I'm lucky.
I'm really good at planking.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kidding.
What's your concealed carry?
Glock 43,
Nice.
typically.
Very nice.
It's not the weapon I would use if I was going into a gunfight,
Right.
but for just EDC and
Yeah.
low print,
Yeah.
it's, it's made for that. So I got the extended mag, so it opens up the pistol grip a little bit, adds a couple extra rounds. So
Carry a P365 XL. Sick. Yeah.
solid.
Yeah. For the same reasons.
Yeah.
But cool,
I have
man.
a subcompact Beretta,
Yeah.
9mm.
Very
I
nice.
don't really
What about you,
conceal
Daniel?
carry much.
I carry a SIG 320. I used to have a Glock, but I just quit using it when I got that SIG. And
Yeah.
So
I like six.
the Glock sits in my safe now. It kind of feels lonely.
You got any more questions?
No, man. I mean,
So
I'm
what
sure
comes
it could
next for you,
continue
man?
on, but
What's next for Machine?
Well, I told you how I found out that how much I enjoy writing when
Yeah.
I wrote OS, man. So I'm currently working on another 3 written projects.
Yes.
I'll probably
New passion.
continue writing, indefinitely. But in terms of the brand and the team that I've built around me, where the machine concept is one that is all structured around when precise elements are all put together, it can create something quite amazing. You can create a machine. A machine is about the team dynamic. And currently now, I mean, I'm doing stuff while I'm still active within that realm of speaking and doing workshops and seminars and things like that. So I'm in a very blessed position where a lot of guys, they struggle when they transition out of the military. Like, what am I going to do, man? Like, trying to fill that vacuum, which is really tough to do. I've already figured out what my next purpose is, and I'm currently, grinding towards that now and making a lot of mistakes. So once I do get that DD-214 and I'm officially a civilian, like, I've got some momentum and a foundation to go off of. So it's going to be a fun ride to watch this thing kind of prosper into the vision that, we created collectively like 5 years ago now.
Heck yeah.
It's going to be a fun ride to watch. I'm sure we'll be fixated on it, following your progress all the way, Nick. So
I appreciate it, man.
Really fun.
Appreciate it,
Fun to
man.
have you on.
Yeah, thank you for your service. And we do really appreciate you joining us for this episode. We'd love to have you back next time you're in the D-Town.
Let's do it, man. This was a blast. I appreciate it, boys.
Thank you.
Are you listening? Damn.
All right, dudes and dudettes, that's a wrap for this episode of Dudes Talking Freedom. Many thanks to Chief Warrant Officer 2, Nick Lavery, for joining us. Make sure to go pick up his book, Objective Secure, and get moving forward with your own personal goal achievement. This is Jeremy.
I'm Luke.
And we'll see you next time. Peace.